They say your children are your heart outside your body. If that's true, then mine got bruised that day, right in front of me. But let me start at the beginning. I'm Isaiah Matthews, 43 years old, born and raised in South Chicago. Now a lead urban designer for the city of Los Angeles. Degrees from Howard and MIT. Years building community parks, libraries, schools where there used to be liquor stores. But none of that matters when someone sees your daughter's skin first, and her light second. That morning, I dropped my daughter Ayanna off at school just like any other day. She had her sketchbook clutched to her chest like always, pages curled, corners smudged with pencil dust. She's 15. Quiet, observant, eyes like her mama's, sharp, soulful, always searching for more. It was career day. She'd been talking about it for weeks, designing a portfolio, researching architectural firms, even wrote a letter to a local mentorship program. "I want to build the places that people feel safe in, Daddy," she told me once. "Places that don't push us out." I was proud of her, so proud. But I had to work that morning, so I signed her permission form the night before and told her to hand it to someone in authority to verify. I didn't know that would be Officer Grant. I didn't know he'd take one look at my daughter's frizzy ponytail, her scuffed sneakers, her oversized hoodie, and decide she wasn't worth listening to. According to the school secretary, Ayanna handed him her form, smiling, told him she wanted to be an architect. She said it straight with that quiet confidence I'd worked years to protect in her. He read it and laughed loud, right in her face. "You? An architect?" he said. "Come on, try something more realistic, sweetheart. Maybe hair or nails?" She didn't cry. She didn't snap. She just nodded and walked away. But later that evening, she didn't say a word at dinner. Didn't touch her rice, didn't draw, just sat there, small, quiet, and cracked. And that's when I knew someone had tried to shrink my daughter's dreams. The next morning, I walked into her school. Not as Isaiah the planner, not even as Isaiah the father. I walked in as a black man with something breaking inside. And when I asked to speak with the officer who'd humiliated my child, they told me he wasn't on campus. He'd been called to City Hall to consult on a zoning inspection. I walked into that meeting room 10 minutes later, blueprints in hand, hard hat under my arm. And there he was, Officer Grant, looking confused, standing beside the city liaison, waiting on the lead designer. He didn't recognize me. Why would he? Until I extended my hand. "Isaiah Matthews," I said, "lead architect for this redevelopment, and Ayanna Matthews's father." His face drained. Eyes dropped. He stammered something. Maybe, "I didn't know. Maybe, she didn't look like..." Doesn't matter. I let him shrink in his own silence. Because my job wasn't to make him feel better. It was to show Ayanna what dignity looks like when the world tries to snatch it from you. That night, she asked me why I didn't yell, why I didn't make a scene. I told her, "Because, baby, they expect our rage. They bank on it. But when you stand in your truth, calm, clear, and undeniable, that's how you win the long game." She nodded, didn't say much. But the next day, she drew. And drew. A community center with open gardens, solar panels, child care space on the roof. She named it the Grant Project. Said it was a reminder that the people who try to laugh at you usually aren't dreaming big enough for themselves. But that moment, it left a scar. On her and on me. Not just because of what he said, but because of how familiar it felt. Like being 10 again, holding my dad's hand in a store, hearing the clerk call us boy like it was casual. I thought I'd raised her past that. But this world still finds its way in. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. A week later, I got a letter. No return address. Inside, a picture of Ayanna outside her school, taken from across the street, written in red pen across the bottom. "Be careful what she builds. We can tear it down." I haven't told her yet. Not because I want to protect her, but because I need time to figure out what to do next. This world already tried to break one generation of Matthew's men. It's not getting the next. So I watch the front door now. I drive her myself, and I scan every face that lingers too long near her school. The picture came in a plain envelope. No note, no return address, just Ayanna, standing outside her school. Book bag on one shoulder, sketchbook under her arm, smiling. And then that message in red. "Be careful what she builds. We can tear it down." I must have stared at that photo for a full minute before my hands started shaking. I've faced down deadlines, protests, city hall corruption, backroom racism so thick it made your teeth clench. But this was different. This wasn't about zoning or public bids. This was personal, and worse, it was about my child. I didn't tell Ayanna that night. Just watched her from the doorway while she sketched on her bed, her pencil dancing like nothing had changed. But everything had. The next morning, I filed a report with the police. They took my name, took the photo. Did that thing they do when they pretend to care. The officer behind the desk, a young white guy, asked if maybe it was a prank. A prank? I didn't even bother answering. Instead, I went home and installed 2 new cameras, one on the porch, one watching the alley. I started driving Ayanna to and from school every day. She didn't ask questions, maybe because she could feel it too. That shift in the air, the way silence hums when something's wrong. A week passed, then another. No more letters. But the damage had already been done. Ayanna stopped sketching buildings. She started drawing shadows instead, people with no faces, rooms with no exits. I asked her about it once. She just said, maybe the safest place is the one no one can find. That broke something in me, not because she was wrong, but because at 15, she already knew what most grown black folks learn the hard way. Visibility is power, but it's also a target. A few nights later, I had a dream. I was back in college, Howard, standing on the steps of the architecture hall. My old professor, Dr. Freeman, was beside me, nodding toward the city below. He said, "Buildings don't just shelter bodies, Isaiah. They shelter stories. The question is, who gets to tell them?" I woke up sweating, and I knew what I had to do. The next morning, I pulled out Ayanna's old designs. I contacted some friends at the community fund. I reached out to a black woman-led nonprofit that backs youth architecture programs. We started planning a real project, her project. Not a sketch, not a dream, a reality. Ayanna didn't believe me at first, thought it was a gesture, a distraction. But when I showed her the empty lot in South LA, the one near the old train yard, we stood there together in the dust and weeds, and I said, "This land is yours now. We're building something that nobody can tear down." She cried. Then she smiled. Then she got to work. We called it the Phoenix Project, a center for youth, art, tech, tutoring, community food space, designed by a teenage black girl who refused to be shrunk. The story started spreading. Articles, local press, interviews with Ayanna. People began to notice, and so did someone else. One night, about a month into construction, we came home to find the front door, slightly open. I'd locked it before we left. I always lock it now. I told Ayanna to wait in the car, grabbed the bat by the stairs, walked through each room, heart pounding. Nothing was missing. No signs of forced entry. But on the kitchen table was a toy, a plastic yellow bulldozer. On the blade was a note. Same red ink. "We warned you. Now we build it our way." I called the cops again. This time they sent someone different. A black woman, Officer Jenkins. She listened, took photos. She even promised to escalate it. But by now, I knew better than to wait for help, so I did something I hadn't done in years. I made a call to an old friend, ex-military, private security consultant. He owed me a favor. I told him what happened. He went quiet for a long second. Then he said, "Isaiah, are you sitting down?" I said I was. What he told me next, I haven't told Ayanna. Not yet, because what he said changes everything. The danger wasn't just a random threat. It wasn't just about her dream or the building. It was about something I buried years ago, someone I thought I'd left in the past. A decision I made when Ayanna was just a baby. Now it's back. And it's watching us. And I don't know if this time I'll be able to protect her. Some blueprints were drawn in blood long before the first brick was laid. They say some scars don't fade. They just get built over. The night my old friend called, I sat in the dark, listening. He told me what I didn't want to hear. This wasn't random. The threats, the photo, the toy bulldozer, they all pointed back to them. A real estate syndicate with deep roots in the city. They wanted to tear down South LA, replace it with condos, wine bars, overpriced co-living spaces. They tried to buy me out years ago. Told me, "Help us rezone it, Isaiah. You'll get yours." I said no, and I said it loud. Next thing I knew, a project I led got defunded. Then came the smear campaigns. I took the hit in silence for Ayanna, for peace. But peace built on silence is just another kind of cage. The threats were their way of saying, "Stay down, stay bought." But I'm not that man anymore. And Ayanna? She never was. So I took everything to Officer Jenkins. The notes, the toy, the history. She connected the dots, quietly, carefully, and with the help of some journalists. One trusted voice in particular. We handed them their reckoning. Subpoenas followed, then indictments. Turns out those backroom deals left a paper trail. Turns out they couldn't bury everything. And while the city sorted out their sins, we kept building. The Phoenix Project rose from the dirt. Steel beams, rooftop gardens, solar power, and a mural of a little black girl sketching a city that looks like her. Ayanna gave a speech at the ribbon cutting. She didn't name the men who tried to erase her future. Didn't have to. She just said, "We don't need permission to exist. We don't need their vision to build our own. We're not asking to belong. We're designing the blueprint." That night I stood alone inside the center. Looked out through the glass walls she drew in pencil, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not fear, not regret, resolve. Some battles aren't won with fists. They're won with facts, with names, with light. With a daughter who dreams louder than their silence can smother. This isn't just justice. This is legacy. If this story hit you, don't just feel it. Follow it. Share it. Subscribe. Because there are more stories like this. More voices rising, and we're just getting started.